Hello guys, I'm back from another video on today we're talking about what if Deku was the only boy with a quirk. So, in the last video we talked about as Jack was giving the information about the whole ritual and also being given the, information about some of the girls of, of Class 1A, he would decide to basically pick one of them. Specifically, this girl by the name of Tenya Ida, as, Izuku's new master. So, after, that whole, thing, which is, like, Jack would basically tell, Principal Nezu to basically get all of the items for the ritual to basically start. So, she would basically leave as, Jack, surprisingly, somehow, got into manga. Which he would basically just start reading manga, and yeah, and for the next day, as Aizawa would basically explain that Ida should probably go into the infirmary for something important, but in actuality, they're gonna be making the ritual. As when she saw Izuku, she was confused, but thankfully, Principal Nezu would basically explain the whole situation. When she does, learn about this, she would decide to be, Izuku's new master. So, after completing the ritual, Izuku is now bound to, to the whims of, Ida. So, after she'd done that, she was told by Principal Nezu that they're gonna be, staying in the dorms. And Izuku is going to be staying at a dorm room, specifically a special one, which was used to be, the room for the Big Three, but unfortunately the Big Three decided to decline. So, yeah. So, after being told of this, Tenya Ida was also told that she's going to be staying in that dorm room from now on, with, Izuku. So, they would basically bring Ezekiel towards, the dorm room, as they would basically put him on the bed, which was, about the size of, three people, which allows, three people to basically, sleep in it. So, yeah. So, she would be, excited being, staying in this room, because it's actually pretty roomy, and it has, some gym equipment, and also some, wait for a second, and some other items, like for example, its own freaking kitchen. So, after Ida solved this, Ezekiel was brought towards the bed as he would be plopped down there, where he's still sleeping. So, Ida would basically start to get ready to basically fall asleep because she's, quite tired after the whole ritual. So, she would start to move out, basically going into her, bedroom, or at least her original room for, back when she was, didn't know about, Ezekiel being her, new servant, as she would basically go into her room as the rest of the girls would basically arrive, asking why she's basically, leaving her room. And, she would basically lie, as the girls would basically understand, except for, Bakugo, for obvious reasons. So, after doing that, she would basically leave, as she would basically fall onto the bed to basically sleep with Izuku, but not in that way. So, yeah. So, that is basically the explanation about what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, Izuku would basically wake up as he would say this. What happened to me? As he would realize that he's able to talk once again. Even though he's sort of, he still have vague memories about his time being in that, mercenary group with, with MASH, he would basically remember some of it, but some memories basically gone. As you'd say this, wait, where's MASH? Ow, it hurts, As he would basically start clutching his head, realizing that it hurts his head. It feels like it's burning. As he would say this, where's my armor? And where's Master? Where's Mash? As he would look over as he realizes that he's on a bed, as he would say this. I didn't remember sleeping. The only thing I remember is, as he would basically remember during the whole incident of the USJ. So, after remembering the USJ attack, he would say, where, those bastards. He would realize that they betrayed him, basically leaving him to basically rot away and die. As he would say this, where are they? As he would basically start manifesting his, gauntlets, being these ones. As he would basically bring out two of them, as he would realize that he's in a pretty nice room, as he would say this. Where the hell am I? As a girl would wake up, and this girl was Tenny Ida, as she would say this. Wait, Izuku, you're awake. As Izuku would say this. Who the hell? How do you know my name? As he would basically get ready his claws, as she would say this. Oh, don't worry, I'm your new master, look. As she would basically, shows her, hand, as, this, hand would reveal her command seal. As this command seal seems to be in the shape of some sort of dog getting stabbed with both a sword and some sort of knife. As Ezekiel would say this, ow, it hurts in my head. As, wait for a second, god damn. As Tenya Ida would basically say this, Ezekiel, are you okay? As he would say this, ow, it hurts, ow, ow. As she would say this, are you okay? Do you need water? As he would say this, why do you care? I'm a boy. As she would say this, but, as he would say this, wait, I'm a boy, and why do you even care about me? I thought you were just going to, as she would say this, heavens no, I do care for you, I mean, I do know some girls would basically try and, beat you to a bloody pulp, but still, I'm going to be a hero, and I don't want anybody hurting you. Besides, I know about your past. As Ezekiel, after hearing this, Ezekiel would say this. Who do you know? How the hell do you know? As she would say this, well, she would basically explain the whole situation as he would say this. I see. So, you're my new master now. And Mash is... As she would say this. Yeah, I guess so. As Ezekiel would say this. Just be good to me. And please don't act like Mash. Please. I don't want to get hurt again. Ever. He would basically start to remember during the times that he basically started as a mercenary, where he failed some of his missions, and those missions that he failed in, well, let's just say he was beaten by Mash and the rest of the other, members, but they were still kind of kind to him. But still, it still hurts that they decided to basically betray him, leaving him there to basically rot and die. As she would say this, oh, I see. As she would basically say this, but we don't want to do that, okay? We're going to be heroes, and if heroes were to do this, then why call ourselves heroes then? As Ezekiel would just look towards her. As Ezekiel would basically hug her. As she would say this, yeah, that's a bit much. She would basically start, laugh a little nervously as he would say this. Thank you. He would basically start, hug her even more as he feels a bit tired. Still a lot tired, as he would say this. I need mana. As she would say this. Oh, right. She would basically remember the whole, idea about giving mana. And there's currently 3 ways about, doing mana transfer, which is basically called, it's basically self-explanatory. First, there's, the typical, way, which is mostly giving them their blood. Which, basically just pricking their finger, letting them drink the blood, then there you go. Even though it's pretty much an effective way, and a pretty easy one, well, it's pretty much, not as good as the other two options. The other is giving them their fluids, like for example, saliva, or let's just say white stuff, or you guess what it is. And the third option, well, let's just say it's a bit more much. Let's just say it's more like a fun time of mono transfer, if you get what I mean. So yeah. So she would basically prick her finger as she would put it into a glass of water. As Ezekiel would basically grab the water, which is, filled with blood, as he would start to drink it. As he would regain, some of his, mass back. What do I mean by this? Well, he would start to become much more muscular. As she would see that Ezekiel's quite toned and quite muscular. As she would say this, yeah, you kinda look good. As Ezekiel would say this, what do you mean by that? As she would say this, oh, nothing, haha. She would basically start to laugh a little, basically, saying that, you'll basically get what I mean. As she would say this, anyway, do you want to do, as Ezekiel would say this, what, I still feel a bit tired, so, as she would say this, oh, I get it, do you want to still rest? As he would say this, yeah, I'm just gonna be going back to the bed. I'll wake up in a few hours. Do you have school or something? As she would say this, oh yeah, she would basically look at the clock as she would say this, oh, still pretty early. As Ezekiel would basically flop onto the bed, as Ezekiel would basically flop onto the bed as he would say this, I'll just be asleep. You just go to class or whatever. He would basically fall asleep as Ida would basically, get ready, as the other students would basically wake up as they would start going to class. So, by the end of the day, everybody is basically excited to do something, fun. Because tomorrow, or in this case, basically in that universe or that world, they're gonna be having, their weekend. So everybody's basically excited, wanting to go to the mall or something of the sort. As one girl would specifically say this to Ida, specifically Mina, as she would say this, hey, Ida, do you want to go outside or something? Maybe we can, go to the mall tomorrow? As she would say this, oh, I'm just gonna be decorating my room, so, as one of them specifically says this, specifically Momo, decorating your room? Huh. Maybe I can join you. As she would say this, oh, no, I will just do it myself. She would basically say that, as one of them would say this, specifically Jiro, as she would say this, you seem mighty suspicious for some odd reason. As, Ida would say this, what do you mean by that, Jiro? As Jiro would say this, well, you act a bit weird for some reason. Seriously. As she would say this, what do you ever mean? I mean, she would basically start stuttering, as she would say this, anyway, I should probably be leaving, as she would basically grab, a bit of groceries during her time, basically, at school. She would decide to, buy some, extra food, as one of them would say this, why are you, as she would say this, don't worry, it's just for me, haha. She would basically go back into her room, as she would basically, lock the door. So, as everybody would say this, she's weird. As Bakugo would realize, where is Izuku? She already knows that Izuku basically was in the, wait for a second, was in the infirmary, but when she came back to basically go visit him, he was gone. As she basically asked Aizawa and many others to, tell her where Izuku is, but they said that he's probably in somewhere else. Maybe, for example, maybe in, the slums of the, the slums of the city. As she was a bit, angry about that. So, yeah, she's been trying to find Izuku for a while now, and Izumi, because of Izuku's, absence, she's basically been, a nervous wreck. She wants to at least, say sorry to him, but ever since he was gone, well, like she's been, tearing up inside and wanting to apologize to him no matter what, and basically wants to, make amends and maybe even bring him back to the family, aka, bring him back to Inko. So yeah, so after noticing like Ida's sudden, weird antics lately, one of them would say this, specifically Mineta, as Mineta would say this. Maybe she's been doing something pervy or something. She would basically start saying that, as one of them would basically smack her on the head. Specifically, this girl is Jiro would basically like smack him on the head, or her in this case, because she's a girl, as she would say this. Ah, shut up, you damn pervert grape. As she would say this. Ah, come on. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, I did saw her get some phallic, as one of them would basically just like punch her in the, stomach, specifically, Momo, as she would say this. Please shut up about that. As she would say this. You don't really mean to do that. She would basically like keel over, as one of them specifically, Ochaka would say this. But still, why is her friend like this? As one of them would say this. I don't know, said, Kirishima, as everybody is wondering, why is Ida acting like this? Let's go back to Ida right now. So, Izuku has fully woken up, as he's full of energy. Kind of. He still feels a bit sleepy, but is kind of hungry. As Ida would basically come into the room, as she would say this. Hey, Izuku. As Izuku would say this. Oh, hello there. I didn't really ask your name, so... As she would say this. Oh, I forgot to tell you. My name is Ida. Tony Ida. As he would say this. Hello there, Ida-san. After hearing that, she would say, you don't really need to say the san part. As he would say this. I just kind of feel like it. As she would say this. Anyway, I got you something. As he was given some, some pretty nice food. Like, for example, some yakisoba and also, wait for a second, some dango. As Ezekiel would start chowing down, as he would say this. It actually tastes really good. Thank you, Ida. As she would say this. You're welcome. I mean, you are my servant, so... As he would say this. I guess so. He would basically start to laugh a little bit. As Ida would say this. So, Izuku, do you have any powers or something of that sort? I mean, one of them basically said, wait for a second, that heroic spirit of yours, I think his name was like Jack the Ripper. He told me that you're able to give, or at least not give, I meant, you're able to basically have specific powers or something of that sort. As he would say this. You talk to Jack? How? As she would say this. Well, apparently Mash was basically containing him into your, body and not letting him out at all with the rest of the, with the rest of your other heroic spirits, like, Lancelot and the as he would say this, Cuchulainn. As she would say this, yeah, as Izuku would say this, I see. And yes, I do have powers. Any weapon that I basically get my hands on becomes my personal weapon. Like, for example, the sniper rifle and the Uzis that I got. As she would say this. Oh, and I also have the ability to basically regenerate from attacks, thanks to special runes which are called healing runes, thanks to Cuchulainn. I'm also able to use Gaibolga and, wait for a second, and Kairoid Konak, which is the name of my, gauntlets. As she would say this. Oh, cool, and as he would say this. And I also have my sword. Its name is Erendite. I'm also able to clone myself, thanks to one of my abilities, which is called Natural Born Killer. And every time when I get killed, or more specifically my main body, like this one, gets killed, well, my consciousness would basically go to the nearest clone immediately, turning it into the new main body. As she would say this. Oh, that's pretty useful. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, but I rarely used it thanks to the healing runes. And thanks to... wait for a second. And it's also thanks to one of my other abilities, which is called From Hell. It allows me to basically transform the area around me into a burning hellscape version of London. And when I use that noble phantasm, I lose myself, turning myself into a demon. And if more opponents are basically in that vicinity of that area, the stronger I get. And I absolutely hate using that ability. By the way, Ida, if you want me to use that noble phantasm, you you just had to ask permission from me. It just hurts when I use it. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. As Ida would say this. Sure. And does it really that hurt? As he would say this, yeah. Even though I don't show it, I'm actually pretty much in pain when I use those noble phantasms. Especially ones from Jack the Ripper. It just hurts. It feels like my heart is burning. As she would say this, oh, are you... As he would say this, yeah, I'm pretty much okay. For now, at least. As she would say this, so, Ezekiel, do you want this? As she would basically bring out another piece of dongo. A dongo ball, in this case. As she would basically, put it up to his mouth. As he would say this, thank you, Ida. He would basically grab the dongo ball from the skewer, as he would basically start chewing on it. As she would say this, he actually looked pretty cute. As Izuku would start to blush a little bit. Like he would start to blush, a complete red. As he would say this, you don't really need to say that. As she would say this, I guess so. So, Izuku, can I come a bit closer? As Izuku would just say this. Closer? What are you... As she would basically go a little bit closer to him. Basically, putting her, chest all the way to his back. As she would basically wrap her arms around his, waist. As he would say this. Ida, what are you doing? As she would say this. You actually feel a bit warm. The AC was a bit, cold, so why not? She would basically come a bit even closer, as Izuku would start, feel a bit uncomfortable, but for some odd reason, it feels nice. He would start to feel the warmth as the madness enhancement, even though it made him angry and basically bloodthirsty, it's almost like it's nullified by her. As he would stop hearing the sound of just kill Arthur. Kill King Arthur. Which is from, Lancelot. As Izuku would basically come closer to her. As he would say this. It feels nice. He would basically almost feel sleepy. As, Ida would basically feel that, him, her, and, Izuku are becoming a bit more closer. As she would say this. Now, do you want to get some sleep? As Izuku would say this. Yeah, I guess so. As they would basically fall asleep as it's the next day. So, the next day of class, as Ida would basically leave as Izuku is fully awake. Izuku would realize that he's basically all alone, as Izuku would decide to just, just be alone for now. And, well, apparently it's not really school day, so after realizing that, she would basically come back into the room, as Izuku would say this. Wait, I thought you had class, Ida. As she would say this, well, it turns out that we don't really have class today. As he would say this. Oh, I see. As she would say this. So, I'll be going to the mall with my friends, so just make sure this, make sure that nobody goes into the room, okay? As he would say this. Sure, but I feel kind of sleepy, okay? As she would say this. Oh, alright. As she would basically, just lock the door as Ezekiel would basically fall asleep once again. So, after the rest of her, friends basically leave with her, one person, or more specifically a few people, basically are there, basically in, the dorms, specifically 3 people. In this case, these 3 people are, Momo Yayarozu, Ochako Uraka, and Noro Mineta. As one of them would say this, so why do you want to do this? Noro, as she would say this, well, I want to see something. Maybe something that, Ida's hiding. Maybe she's hiding a man there. As one of them would basically say this, specifically, wait for a second. Ochako, as Ochako would say this, why would you think that, Mineta, as she would say this? Well, isn't that obvious? Well, I think that, Ida's probably hiding something. Something even pervy. She would basically start licking her lips as she would think of, the most absurd ideas. Take a guess some of those ideas if you, make an answer in the comments or something of that sort. So, yeah, as one of them would basically say this, specifically, Momo. Seriously, Mineta, please stop thinking of those things, and besides, we're gonna be heroes, so, as she would say this. Oh, come on, line things up. As she would basically start going closer towards, her new room. As she would basically start, unlocking the door with her, skills. As one of them would basically say this. So, how do you know how to, unlock a lock? Said, Ochako. As she would say this. Well, I guess you could say that I kind of worked, a special job before I joined, UA. As one of them would basically just like say this, specifically Momo. And that job is, as she would say this, oh, it seems like it's unlocked now. As they would basically start, twisting the knob of the door, as they would basically open up. As they would see the room, and it's pretty cold. As one of them would say this, specifically, Momo. Ugh, it's quite cold. It kind of reminds me of Todoroki's room. As Ochako would say this. No kidding, it feels pretty cold. As she would say this, specifically, Mineta. As she would say this. I wonder what is happening over here. She would basically start, looking through the drawers as they would realize that, well, Ida seems to have a personal, gym right beside there, and she also seems to have a personal kitchen right beside there. And not only that, there's a fridge filled with, food. As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Momo. I think that, wait for a second. I think that Ida is probably having a bit of, special treatment. As Ochako is basically just like grabbing all of the food from the fridge, as she would say this. What are you talking about? As, she would look over, specifically, wait for a second, god damn. As Momo would basically look over, basically seeing, Ochako basically like robbing the place, as she would say this. Ay, sweet lord. As they would start looking towards, her bed. As one of them would say this. I wonder what's under this, cupboards. Or more specifically, the blanket. As Ochako would basically say this to, Mineta. I think it's a bit private or something. Or maybe somebody's sleeping in there? I mean, as one of them would basically say this, specifically Momo. Sleeping in there? But everybody's basically gone back to, do something important. Like, for example, like, wait for a second, like, Baku's gone back to her house, or her home to basically visit them, or more specifically, her parents. But, why is there a lump here? As you would start to feel a person? As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Mineta, she would say this. I knew it! Somebody's sleeping with, somebody sleeping with, Ida. As she would basically pull out the cupboards, as they would see Ezekiel peacefully sleeping. As one of them would say this. What? Why is a boy here? Said, Ochako. As, wait for a second. as Momo would recognize him, as she would say this, wait, that's the boy with the quirk, as, you know, Mineta would say this. So, that's the guy that basically saved, or at least somewhat, defeated All Might. She would start rubbing her, hands together, as Izuku is still peacefully sleeping. As Ochako would say this, so what are we going to do? I mean, he's sleeping, and as she would say this, specifically Mineta, oh, it's something pretty fun. She would basically go on top of him as, Momo and, Ochako would try and restrain her, saying, don't do this, as Mineta would say this, it's my destiny, as, Momo would basically try and restrain her, creating rope, and basically trying to, try and not, take away Izuku's innocence right now. So, Izuku is currently, still sleeping, as Izuku would basically start, tossing and turning. As the girls would hear this, as you think, is Izuku awake? Or is the guy awake? As, Momo would basically start, walk over to him, as they would see that Izuku is shaking, and seems to be crying, as he seems to be whispering to himself, saying, no, not anymore, please, I don't want to, no. As the girls would just hear this, as they would think, what the heck is going on in his dream? As Momo would basically start to come closer to Izuku, as she would basically put him on her, lap, using, her legs as like a lap pillow. Yeah, as she would start, patting on Izuku's head, as Izuku would basically stop, stopped being, stop having that bad dream, and seems to be calming down. As, Mineta would get a little bit jealous of her, basically hogging all of the man meat, she would start, charge over there, as she would basically, grab onto Izuku and start, try to pull down his pants. As Ochako would basically try to stop her, as Momo would basically start to use her quirk to create, a rope to basically try and restrain her. After that, they would basically get out of the room to basically, leave out any evidence, or leave out no evidence at all that they basically, got into the room. So, let's go back to them, shall we? As all three of them would basically be in the room of, Ochako, as Ochako would say this. So, it seems that Ida decided to, as one of them would say this, specifically Momo, as she would say this, yeah, it seems that, wait for a second, it seems that Ida decided to let this boy, this kid, this boy with the quirk, she basically let this kid, or Izuku, or whatever, to, stay in her room. As one of them would basically say this, specifically Mineta, this is unfair, I wanted to stay with him. As one of them would basically look at her as, well, Mineta would say this, come on, you want to do it. As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Ochako, no thanks, I don't want to do that with anybody right now. And, I mean, he's pretty cute and almost seems a bit calm, and she would basically start blushing, as one of them would basically say this, specifically Momo, yeah, and it actually felt nice when I let him, sleep on my lap. It felt nice. As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Mineta, as he would say this, or she, in this case, oh, so you do like him. Well then, I should be going over there and maybe, taking off his as they would basically try to restrain her once again. So, yeah, a few hours have gone by as, Mineta was brought back to her, dorm room to basically, calm down, and when they saw her room, let's just say it's a bit, phallic. Yeah. As every single girl in Class 1A is basically coming back, including Ida. So, Ida would basically come back, as they would see that she seems to have a lot of food. As one of them would say this, specifically, Ochako. Ida, why do you have so much food? As she would say this. I was a bit hungry, let's just say that. She would basically laugh as she would start moving back to her, dorm room, as every single girl there is basically just like, she's acting a bit too weird. As one of them would specifically say this. Yeah, we should probably check on her room or something. Maybe she's hiding something? As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Bako. Whatever. I should be going back to my room. Besides, I'm gonna be preparing to become the #1 hero. As everybody is a bit, angry at her for basically doing that little comment. As every single girl there, or more specifically, the 3 girls that revealed, or at least saw, Ida's little secret, aka, finding out that, she's basically been staying with, Izuku, as they would basically hide it for now. So, back to, Ida and Izuku. As Izuku would basically just, wake up from his, little, power nap, as Izuku would look over, he would basically see Ida, as he would see that she's basically bringing out a plate of food. Specifically, let's just say some Chinese food. As he would say this. Whoa, it smells good. As she would say this. Oh, hey Izuku. As Izuku would basically start to stand up. As he would basically, change his clothes, basically going into the shower to basically change his clothes. As he's basically just wearing a simple, shirt with, no sleeves. As he's basically just wearing, black shorts and just it's just mostly that. As he would basically just go onto his seat, as he would start eating with, Ida. As Ida would say this. So what do you think? As Izuku would say this. It tastes good. So, Ida, I had this weird dream. As she would say this. Really? What dream? As he would say this. Well, I was dreaming about being back in that facility. As she would say this. Really? As he would say this. Yeah, I was being punished by MASH until I felt something. I felt something soft and I saw you in my dream. You were using your lap as a pillow and it felt nice. As she would say this. Kind of a bit blushing as well, as she would say this. That's a bit, much. As he would say this. Sorry, but, I'm really thankful for you being nice to me. After all, most girls would probably just, hurt me. As she would say this. Oh, yeah. She would basically just, look down. As she would say this. But anyway, do you want to... As she would basically, finish eating, as she would basically, start cleaning her plates with Izuku. As she would say this. Well, we should probably get some sleep now. As she would say this. You're right. As both of them would basically go into their, shared bed, as, because it was pretty cold, wait first. As Ida would basically start to, come closer to him, basically rubbing her body against Izuku. Izuku would basically feel the warmth of her body, as she would basically wrap her hands around, Izuku, as Izuku would basically wrap his arms around, Ida. Their warmth, Izuku's warmth, and Ida's warmth, it felt nice to Izuku. And for Ida, it felt nice for her as well. As you would fall asleep, feeling quite, quite comfortable. So, yeah, this is going to be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!